So wait, you're telling me you've never been to a drive-in?
I have never been to a drive-in movie.
Even like this year, like I've been to like 5 or 6 drive-ins in the past year because it's like the only way of seeing movies.
I have not left my house in the past year.
Okay, well, okay. Are you willing to go to a drive-in with me?
It depends. What movie are we seeing? What's the best movie to watch in a drive-in movie?
A movie about cars, probably.
I guess. What movie is there about cars that's also in a drive-in movie?
I mean, Pixar's not releasing a Cars 4 anytime soon, but we might have to settle for F9.
F9?
F9!
That sounds perfect!
Yes! Today at Banquet at the Flum Dumpster.
That's Fast and the Furious 9.
Today at Banquet at the Flum Dumpster.
How drab, how dull critique can be. It's begging and pleading for apathy. The good, the bad, the in-between. And nothing is everyone's cup of tea. No time to waste, there's things to do. But Jared and Eric are happy too. They'll suffer the worst of films for you. So enter the strangest of banquet rooms.
Welcome to Banquet at the Flum Dumpster.
Hello, everyone.
That was our theme song, and this is Banquet at the Flum Dumpster. This is a rather exciting episode because we're watching something that's a little bit more mainstream.
It's a very special episode.
It is a very special episode. I've been looking forward to this. We are watching this movie close to the day of its release, I think.
Very current.
Very
Second
current.
weekend.
I don't know when this episode will go online.
But when we're recording it, we're in the second weekend of release of F9.
That is Fast and the Furious 9.
F9 from the Fast Saga.
Not the Furious Saga?
No, it's the Fast Saga.
I'll bet by the next movie they'll retitle it the Furious Saga.
They really love titles.
I love the titles of this franchise.
I'm excited for just everything about this movie.
I feel like the first thing that we need to ask, if we're doing a podcast episode on F9, do we think that the Fast and Furious movies are bad? Like, why do they belong in our podcast?
So I think, for me, the interesting part about it is how this franchise that started out as just like a movie about speed racers who also are criminals and like there's a vague heist thing, essentially like 4 or 5 movies in, depending on where you really fall, jumped the shark and became something completely, for pardoning the pun, ludicrous. And became better. Like, became a much more watchable, exciting, mainstream franchise than what it started out as.
I think it's interesting that you reference it jumping the shark, because jumping the shark is something that's typically referred to with less than favorable connotations.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that, like, the Fast and the Furious franchise kind of transcends notions of good and bad.
It does.
I think a lot about how it, in a lot of really weird ways, represents a kind of strange masculinization of camp. Hyper-masculinization of camp, where things are exaggerated and hyperbolic, but always in a way that's not, queering the subject matter, but almost the opposite, making it so aggressively heterosexual.
Yeah. Yeah, you feel like this is the epitome of that, like, big muscular guys like fast cars. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, for those people, this movie is amazing. But
there's an extent to which it leans into the potential for an ironic reading of it.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I think that it's interesting how mainstream it got, because at its roots, it's a pretty niche subject. Mm-hmm. Speed racing and like people who are like, the people who would watch the original movies were ones who really like sports cars, like the car culture, all of that. Like, that's what it was appealing to. And it was like as I said, when they went more mainstream, when they were like, we're doing global heists now. We are going to be driving cars through the Arctic. We are going to fly through buildings. Like, We are going to be like hijacking a plane. Like
it gets so ridiculous.
Helen Mirren's driving a submarine or something. Like this is the franchise that it became, but it's just when it did that was like it simultaneously leaned into itself and became kind of like a self-parody to some extent. Like you haven't seen the first few. The first four.
You deliberately instructed me to start the franchise at installment number 5.
And
come in with The Rock.
I think it's the right place because that's where I think it gets into what you have now. Because like that was, I think you were preparing to watch the new one that just came out, and I said if you don't need to really catch up on all of them. You start with the 5th one because that's what the franchise is now. It doesn't really matter like it's interesting to see where it started, but the characters have changed so much. There's shadows of what they were the first ones. And that's where you're like, if you watch from the first one, and like it'll take you so long to get to where you have to be to really enjoy the franchise.
But it is the type of thing, like I'm not the type of person who cares about cars in the slightest. I'm 27 years old. I still don't have a driver's license. That's how little I care about cars. I would not expect myself to have any kind of interest in these movies at all, just from a personal taste standpoint. Last week, I was talking to a friend of mine about how I was going to do this in a week, and she was like, Jared, I have never seen a single Fast and Furious movie. I don't understand why there are so many of them. Am I missing out on something? Should I be watching the Fast and Furious movies?
And see, I think it's interesting because I would say if somebody asked me that, my answer would be no.
That was my answer.
Yeah, my answer would be no, you're not missing anything, but it's simultaneously a franchise that I'm really kind of happy is flourishing.
I'm fascinated by it.
Yeah, because like you get these large action set pieces, this ridiculous like mainstream camp, but you also get like an extremely diverse cast, which when you look at like the movies that top all of the charts in like box office year to year, this is kind of like one that stands out to you, where it's like the majority of the cast are non-white actors. And even behind the scenes, like James Wan, who directed I think this one and then like installments 4 through 6, is like this was what kind of it got his wheels turning in Hollywood.
Wheels
exactly
turning.
That's the deliberate choice of phrase. Yeah.
There are also a great deal of actors in this film.
There are a lot
who are bald.
Oh yes, that's what I find so fascinating is that, you know, the main cast members that are like every male cast member, it's a requirement. You do not have hair. Like I am shocked, genuinely shocked that they haven't signed up Paul Giamatti. Like I guess he has just slightly too much hair. Like Mark Strong would be great in these movies. There are these actors who like I'm like, why haven't you capitalized on your baldness to get into this franchise? Jason Statham did it. You're not better than Jason Statham.
Well, I'm sure there are a lot more movies to come. We're only in installment 9. I've heard that Vin Diesel wants installment number 10 to be in 2 parts.
Yeah.
Which I am looking forward to seeing
FX,
how that works.
And FX2, FXer. Yeah.
2 FX, 2 FXers.
Let's like whatever title we throw out here will be better than whatever title they come up with for that.
But I do want to circle back. I do want to, because there may be someone in our listeners who
has not seen any of these movies?
Who's coming at this from the same position as my friend, and who like had never seen a single one of these movies before and doesn't understand what the point of them is and why there are so many. And I have to say, when my friend told me that, I was reminded of a young me, because that is how I looked at these movies for a long time before you suggested that I start with The Rock.
Yeah.
Because it is, like, looking at them as an outsider, looking at them as an insider, but looking at them as an outsider, they look weird. Like, weird in a way that's, like, very aggressively mainstream and very clearly, like, low culture. But, like, it's unclear why there have to be so many of them. It is like they look bad from the outside. And I think that comes back to our first question, which is why we're talking about it on this podcast, despite both clearly being way too unironically excited to watch this movie than we should be, or at least should be in a way that we shouldn't also be embarrassed to be. Because you look at a Fast and the Furious movie from the outside, it looks like exhausting.
It looks like the very worst tendencies of Hollywood, all in one film.
And
like
the
it's
thing
like specifically
is,
like the machismo Hollywood.
Exactly. And the thing is, it kind of is.
Yeah.
But what makes it a little bit magical is that it kind of knows that about itself.
Yeah. That's what I love about, because I think if you look at the first four, if and when you go back and watch them, I think you'll see what I mean, where the first four go into, and like to a lesser extent the fourth is kind of the bridge movie, where they're slightly getting into their new format, but they're not quite there yet. But it is all the worst instincts of Hollywood, but it takes itself very seriously. And I think that's what I think works, that this franchise wouldn't still be going if that was the case.
So you're saying that it works because at installment 5 it stopped taking itself seriously altogether.
And that's what I mean, like when it jumped the shark, it stopped taking itself seriously and became something kind of transcendent.
And I think that I don't know if I respect that. I was about to say that I respect that. But I think that makes for really enjoyable blockbuster experiences.
Yeah. It's something where it's like they understood, like somehow they were like, whoever made that change, whether it was a studio, whether Vin Diesel was just like, you know what, no, I have a new idea for this new one.
Do you think it's possible that we're projecting that onto the films? That they are actually in their own minds taking themselves completely seriously, and we are projecting that ironic post-Hollywood hyper-masculinization of camp onto these films because we want to explain why, to ourselves, why we receive such combined ironic and somehow unironic joy out of them. Is it possible that that is a reading stance that we are taking on that is not in the text itself, but something that we are assigning to it?
I think there's some element of that, because it isn't like they've gone completely out there and are just like constantly poking fun at themselves. There's still that level of, we are taking this seriously. We are acting like this is grounded in some sort of reality. And then the situations themselves take you out of the reality. And then, of course, you get Tyrese with just his random one-liners. And you're like, was that improvised? Was that meant to be there? Like, what's going on? And I don't understand if people, just as a side note, I don't think people write stuff for Tyrese. I think they're just like, Tyrese is also in this scene. Have a camera on him. He'll say something. And 90% of the time it won't work. And the other 10% will be genius. And that's where I think this franchise is at. 90% of it is like, we're taking this pretty seriously. That's who these people are. They're like, we are making a film with action set pieces that's not entirely parody. And then there's just that 10% of, we needed to make this fun, and we're making it fun by kind of like extending it past where any normal action franchise would go. Like when you're jumping cars through buildings, when you're having Vin Diesel hopping across highways, and like all of these scenes, like the runway that went on for like miles while the plane was taking off in Furious 6. And you're like, these are set pieces designed by somebody who understood what people want is something ridiculous. Like, we are going to give it to them with the air of seriousness that won't make it feel like an alienating thing that have people winking at the camera. It's not that kind of parody. It's an accentuation, or like, what's the word?
Extension?
No, it's not an extension. Like, it's like an augmented reality. That's what it is. They're presenting us this augmented reality in order to like keep it from being, oh, this is a grounded, boring film. And that's where I think
heightened,
it's at.
hyperbolic.
It's heightened. It is hyperbolic, but like I think it's an augmented reality.
Camp.
Like, yeah.
It's a little element of camp.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of camp.
I think we've talked enough.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't even watched the movie yet.
We're just
Clearly,
so excited.
we have a lot to say about the Fast and the Furious franchise, apparently.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for our musical interlude.
Yeah.
We will return after we have seen the movie. Spoilers for F9 will follow from this point.
I might even be spoiling other films if I'm like referring back. So just
make sure that you've seen all 9.
Yeah, you know, like
Fast and Furious. Does that mean that you're going to spoil them for me?
Well, no. Okay.
The first 4?
Maybe if there's not like there will be small spoilers. If you're someone who wants to like know absolutely nothing about any of these movies, why are you watching?
If our conversation up until now has sold you on the entire Fast and the Furious franchise, go home, watch all 9 of them plus Hobbs and Shaw, and then come back.
Yes.
We'll wait. But in the meantime,
listen to the song in the background.
Listen to this great musical interlude.
Remain on the edge of your seat. In a moment, your hosts will return with the fruits of their suffering. Every last thought that is currently buffering too. The time has arrived, their opinions will now debut.
And welcome back.
Welcome back. We are on the highway driving back from our drive-through movie 9. Those are some great car sound effects. Thank you for that.
I just want to make sure, in case you can't hear, we are in the car and we are driving.
I hope that doesn't affect the audio of this podcast. For those listening with headphones,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
But we felt like this was the most authentic way to capture our experience leaving the drive-in rather than just sitting in the drive-in and then being affronted by the next movie, which I think is the Forever Purge.
I think that it's also authentic to the film itself too.
It is. We're in a car talking about a movie where they're in cars for a lot of it.
Yeah, cars are a real part of the Fast and the Furious franchise.
Yeah, they
like
the Saga,
the Fast Saga. It's about cars through and through.
They even had actual racing.
Yeah.
Right off the bat.
Yeah.
Not just street racing. They were on a racetrack.
Yeah. Yeah.
With like just the people who just go around in laps.
And Lightning McQueen was there and Mater and
I think we watched a different movie there.
Oh, I was watching Cars 4.
But let's get into this movie. Let's start because this is a 2.5 hour kind of epic.
Kind of.
Right off the back, I'm gonna say not as epic as the others.
It was, and this feels weird to say about a Fast and Furious movie, much slower and more grounded.
Yeah.
Than the other 5, 6, 7, 8, 4 other movies that I've seen plus Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah, like I will say more grounded up to a point. We will get to that, but I would definitely agree that like in general, this felt like a return to the because Justin Lin, who directed this one, also directed 4, 5, and 6, and so when you have the director who was he was there when they went into this, I feel like you have that sort of expectation that he's he's familiar with this franchise, but at the same time it felt like a step back, like we were ramping up with each movie, and this shifted the gear back, to use car terminology that I might be using wrong.
You're the one driving.
I am, but I don't drive manual, so but I think that's a thing, and it's like the action set pieces were still spectacular.
For the most part, I feel like
No, like, I just would think, like, if you take just the action set pieces that we had, those were great. It was just, we felt like we need more.
I feel like there were some great action set piece moments. Many of them were in the trailer.
Yeah.
And the ones that weren't were things like the gang is in a jungle getting shot at by a bunch of random people.
With landmines.
And there were landmines. Yeah. I feel like...
Things go boom.
Things did go... There was a lot of boom. There was a lot of go boom.
Yes.
A lot go boom. Much go boom.
And I think,
a lot.
like, there's... The biggest miss for me was... This was... And this is a spoiler. We're already in spoilers. Yeah. This was the movie that they went into space. And you're like, okay... Here we go. They're shooting a car with a rocket on the back into space, and you're like, okay.
I think we need to back up for a moment, because for the listener who, after our summary of the Fast Saga leading up to this moment in the first half of this episode, for the listener who did not hear that and immediately go, oh, I need to watch all 8 of these movies, 9, sorry, plus Hobbs and Shaw.
All right.
For the listener who heard that and went, oh, I don't care, I'm going to keep listening, we need to step back and say, this is the movie where they go to space.
Yeah.
And I know you said that, but I feel like we need to punctuate that.
Yeah,
they went to space. Like, I'm not just talking they got into a rocket. They shot a car into space with people inside it in makeshift spacesuits made out of scuba gear, and they flew around in space.
And don't forget that Ludacris, Tej in the movie, says, don't worry.
Okay.
As long as we follow the laws of physics, we'll be fine. And that, but like, so one of my point was, that scene, on paper, amazing. What did they do in space?
They sat there, they bantered, and they blew up a satellite.
Like, that's the thing, like, it was just, it felt anticlimactic.
I agree.
For the part where they go into space, just floating around, and then, boop, missile, satellite, boom.
No,
like,
it wasn't even a missile. They did, to be fair,
they
did drive the space car into the satellite.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, that's something. There was some flames, but no, I agree with you. I like the scene that was there did not match up to the sheer magnificence of the Fast and the Furious goes to space.
Yeah. And like, that's the thing. It's just, it seemed like on paper, you're in. Like, as soon as the studio heard, oh yeah, we're doing a space shot, they were like, oh my god, $1 billion right there. Like, they...
Are you sure that the studio didn't go, okay, Vin Diesel, whatever you want,
no.
But are you sure?
No, I think the studio is beyond questioning for this franchise, because every one of them makes more money. Like, that's, like, this one probably won't because of the state of the world, but like, in a normal world, this would have made more money, because this is just, it's just profit. You just put this movie out, profit. And I think that what you're seeing is, so like, there's that action set piece, and there are a few sprinkled through the movie where you're like, these are clearly like the action moments that are meant to break up the very heavy exposition of backstory
and character
drama that you don't really need this much of.
Yeah,
I don't like this.
Especially
is the
in a
first time.
Especially in a Fast and Furious movie.
Yeah.
I don't care about Dominic Toretto's relationship with his brother.
But like, this is the first time since they went into like the 5th one that I felt like, okay, this movie dragged on for longer than it needed to, and I think that speaks of volumes about it.
It really does, and I think it was like when there was about an hour left in the film, we both collectively looked at the time and we both collectively turned to each other, and because we were in a drive-in movie, we could say out loud, has anything happened in this movie so far?
Yeah. It's a movie that's like, you get a sense like, okay, the story is he has his brother there who they've not talked for in a while, so we've never heard him even mention having a brother. Sure, we're going along with that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Run
His brother's
with it.
John Cena. They don't even align quite right racially. That's fine. We're rolling with it. As long as we're getting shot into space later, we're fine. But then it's just overall that whole brother dynamic.
It really dominates.
It dominated the narrative, and it wasn't that interesting or unique or that like. It was just a very cut by numbers. Like, you could see exactly where it was going, and you kind of expect more, even from, let's just say, like, a kitschy mainstream blockbuster.
This brings me back to the question that we asked right before we started watching the movie, which is our reading of the Fast and Furious franchise as high camp for heterosexual men projected?
I still think,
because like this installment in particular took itself very seriously. It had moments, it had snippets of, characters being shot into space, or I think the same character that got shot into space speculating earlier in the film, like, hey, we've been on some wacky adventures, haven't we, team? We should all be dead. We should all be dead. How are we alive right now? Like, he just straight up said that, which I really appreciate.
Tyrese always speaks the truth. Just in case this wasn't clear, Tyrese is my favorite. Like to be clear, I interchange the actors and the character names just interchangeably, but Roman, for the fans of the film, played by Tyrese, is my favorite character.
I like how you're on a first name basis with Tyrese.
Yeah. No, we're buds.
I'm glad. Do you get like pastries?
No, just Christmas cards. We're not that close.
Not that. Yeah. It's like acquaintance. Yeah. Sort of like, but like.
No.
The kind of
Christmas card list.
Yeah.
Like
you keep in touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once a year.
Yeah.
The high holidays.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to the movie. What I think that what kind of happened is, you saw. So there has been a lot of movies that have tried to emulate Fast and Furious's success, both before and after the jump from 4 to 5. Like before,
like the one that we watched in the episode before this, 200 mph.
Yeah, 200 mph had was imitating the Speed Racer, like the street racing, and so is like Speed Racer, Need for Speed, all of that. Like that's imitating that one. But since the jump to its extreme success, there have been a lot of blockbusters that have tried to capture the fun of the Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
And this felt like a slight response to that.
It felt like it was bringing it down to earth and making it more heavy.
Yeah, like trying to return a little bit to the serious, no, this is like a franchise with something to say, with some depth, but that's not what we're all here for. Well, in particular,
it is.
It's some of what we're here for,
but it's kind of thematically consistent with the franchise, because if there's one, thematic, vague idea that the entire series is built around, it is family. Ohana means family, and family means that nobody gets left behind or forgotten, and that comes up in every single Fast and Furious movie. And so it makes sense from a thematic standpoint to bring in a new character who has a family connection to our hero Vin Diesel, and make that connection tumultuous. Okay. Because it places him in a position of test. It tests him.
But
from a narrative perspective, that makes sense. From a Fast and Furious perspective, I was bored.
But I think why you were bored is because it is consistent, because it's kind of derivative. Like, they've done this kind of thing with other people coming back.
Yeah.
With Letty. Letty in one of the movies was like, oh, this is somebody who I thought was out of my life and is now against me, and I need to convince Letty to join forces back with me, and then because she has amnesia or whatever.
Can you remind us?
Michelle Rodriguez from Lost.
Okay. Yeah. I just felt like I needed to say that for anyone who didn't, in between our musical interlude and now, binge watch all 9 Fast and Furious movies, because I don't know about the rest of you, but I forget the plot of these movies immediately after I finish them.
But it's so Dom's girlfriend, now wife, Letty, he thinks died. She comes back from the dead, and he's like, oh my god. And people just die, come back all the time in this franchise. That's just that. I don't even call that derivative as much as just people gotta work. But that's the thing, that they did this. They basically did this exact, oh, this is someone I love. They've betrayed me. What am I gonna do? Serious, family drama with that plot line. And that's why so much of this felt boring and done.
I mean, does it come in part from the fact that as a thematic core of a now 9-film and counting franchise, just the word family is a bit vague.
Family, the family that he talks about isn't just his actual people who are related to him. He has his crew, his ride or dies, that's who he talks about. It's the people who we see in the movie. So when you have a character they just introduce, oh, he also has a brother, and they've never mentioned him. It's just, it feels like, yes, this is one direction that you could go with these movies. It also feels like it's the boring direction, it's the safe direction. You expect it from a mainstream movie. You don't necessarily expect it from Fast and Furious.
I mean, I think that if there's anything that I expect from Fast and Furious, it's a little bit of the derivative. But I think that
a little bit, but not just this is what I'm saying is the safe option.
Yeah, but I think that there is on the one hand a degree to which placing in tension Dominic Toretto's found family versus his blood family, and bringing into the center the more tumultuous relationship that he has with his brother, and contrasting that with the closer bonds that he has with his found family of car fanatics. There's something there, but at the same time, I think that there is, like I was saying a minute ago, there's also something about how just the word family as a thematic core is so vague that it feels like there's only so much that you can do with that.
Yeah. But I think that tension that you're describing, he has to choose between these, that wasn't really in the movie.
No, I'm not saying that he had to choose between them. I'm saying that they were framed in contrast to each other a little bit.
But so you look at that and you're the only reason why John Cena changed sides, changed back, was because he got betrayed by the side he was working on.
Yeah.
That's just the not that interesting as a reason for that to happen.
No, and it is the type of thing where it felt like the film functioned in part it all centered around the John Cena character, right? Yeah. The bulk of this film was spent attempting to make us care about this character and care about the relationship that he has with Dominic Toretto. And that served the purpose of essentially introducing a new character into this series of films going forward and just kind of stopped there. Like, the tilt on which the narrative closes is the tilt where John Cena joins the barbecue table of Dominic Toretto's found family and becomes one of the gang.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, you get that needed to happen. They wanted John Cena in this franchise. This is like a whole movie introduction to his character. I just feel like that's not the only thing this movie had to achieve. Like, you can have that in a movie, and then you can also have everything else that we want from a Fast and Furious movie. Like, this movie...
I think that they were trying to do that. Like, I think that they were genuinely making an effort to keep the batshit action sequences that we know and love. But I think that it's possible that in the writing process, they look at their attempt to what I think they saw as building a genuine connection with the John Cena character and going, like, we need more time with this character to build up this relationship. And so it comes out of a kind of inevitable, extra textual tension between the different needs that this film has. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think, like, I think the balance, you can have I don't need the huge action set pieces. Like, the fights that they had in Tokyo, or the ones that, like, just the fist fighting and all of that can be done, and you're like, okay, that's still some action that you're expecting, like, you got the action movie stuff. It's just, like, as a whole, I think that the balance for me, what was missing about it was the fun. It was literally just that.
Yeah.
Like, it's you have such a dark setting for a lot of it. A lot of this happens at night. That's just like instantly you're like, okay, like, I'm not seeing all of the, like, bam, sizzling. Like, that scene in the jungle was great. You're like, oh yeah, it's bright. There's, like, warm lighting. Bombs are going off. The Tokyo scene, it's fun. But you get, like, the muted John Wick kind of action.
Not to mention the fact that the majority of the exposition took place in a really dimly lit Soviet bunker.
Yeah. And it's like, the fun was missing. It had been drained out of the movie. And it's just, when you're looking for high camp and machismo, this isn't the movie for it.
And do you know what I think?
A little sad.
Do you know what I think it comes down to?
What?
The Rock.
Yes.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson was nowhere to be found in this installment of the Fast and Furious franchise.
Yeah.
And it showed.
Yeah.
I really do think that Dwayne Johnson brings a charisma and a screen presence that really just elevates every single movie that he's in. Especially when that movie is a Fast and Furious movie. Like, even that one movie where he's in the hospital for the majority of the runtime feels like it drags until he flexes his arm, breaks off his cast, and joins the action.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say, was, like, in that movie, that's what you needed. You needed the third act Rock to come in and bring that extra level back up.
Yeah.
Because, like, I was waiting. Because, like, right before they went to space, I was like, I'm really feeling like there's so much missing here. And that last action sequence with the two things going on at the same time.
The big boy truck and the space.
Yeah. Like, with those two going on at the same time, you're like, okay, this is like a really good climactic thing, but still, it felt
like something was missing.
You're missing The Rock.
Part of that is because, the big truck on the streets of London does not top the third act action scenes of past Fast and Furious franchises. It's no chasing a submarine in the middle of the Arctic.
No.
And we've already talked about how the space scene got them to space and then kind of went, okay, now what?
Yeah, because that was the equivalent of the Arctic in this movie.
Yeah.
Was the space. And it didn't have the same submarine bursting through the ice moment that
driven by Helen Mirren.
Yeah. And Helen Mirren was also in this one, but again, briefly.
Yeah.
Briefly in this one.
And she got a brief action sequence. She got to drive a car.
Yeah, she got to drive a car. There was a chase scene. Like, it was a good scene.
Yeah.
Not a long scene. You know, like, I get that, you
but
know,
like,
you can't keep everyone in.
Even if Helen Mirren was in more of the movie, that would have made it more fun.
Yeah.
Because placing Helen Mirren in a movie with these uber machismo action car men is funny.
Yeah.
That's just a great choice.
Yeah. I also like the fact that you had like the little snippets of past villains with like Jason Statham coming in the post-credit scene, and
spoiler alert.
Again,
we've spoiled this entire movie.
Yeah. Charlize Theron for like a couple of scenes just being her like wicked self.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, like you're getting some of that element, but then you're just constantly reminded John Cena is not as compelling a villain as those people were. And it's just like I again, you know, I want the fun, you know, and I think that's, you know, what you put with The Rock is definitely part of it. It's just there are other elements at play that you think, okay, if you're doing Fast 10 and 11 as a two-parter, you've got to have like this has to have that fun element, or you're not going to be like you're like they might be the last ones. How much longer do you think they can carry this franchise for?
I think that simultaneously this franchise could end after Fast 10 Part 2, or it could just continue on until they stop making money. I think that it's also entirely possible that this, as installment number 9, was the like slower, more meditative, more character-driven installment as part of the lead-up to the bombastic two-parter that we would, I assume, be getting in a couple years.
Yeah, I think that is a point, because you do expect, like, they are clearly building up to something. But what I think it's building up to, you have to wonder, okay, who's going to be at the helm? Who's going to be writing it? Mm-hmm. And are they going to have, like, are they going to have the camp element that we've been talking about, that we love about it?
But
or
that's
are they
also
going to go
like,
more serious?
It's also like, at this point, we're just asking, are they going to make a Fast and Furious movie that's just for us? I mean, that's what I want. But,
yes.
like, they made their choice to make F9 a more character-driven installment, and that's not why we watch Fast and Furious movies, but it's entirely possible that somebody else does. Maybe somebody is very invested in Dominic Toretto's relationship with his brother. Maybe somebody else really connects on a very personal level to the themes of found family. And so, like, I think that, placing F9 in this evaluative context where we say, like, essentially what I'm starting to hear us say, and I'm hearing this from myself just as much as you, like, this is a Fast and Furious movie that was not for me, and I'm mad about it.
Well, okay.
Or not mad, but, like,
I'm not
disappointed.
Mad. Yeah, I'm not mad, just, I came in with fairly high expectations, given the upward trajectory in these set pieces in particular. Yeah. And just the overall tone of the movie the movie franchise having shifted into this, and you're like, this is something that I look forward to. Yeah. And I get that, there are definitely people who will resonate more with this deeper dive into like this particular like lifestyle or however you want to call it. It's just, I don't think that it's not just about like it not working for me as well. I think that there are going to be people who will be like, yeah, that was good, but I still felt like there was something missing. And like there's, I don't know, there's just, you want there to be that light. Like if there is in the 10 part, like you said, if this is all building up to that, we're going to look back at this and be like, yeah, that was just a build-up movie and it was good for doing that.
I mean, I wouldn't say that it was, yeah.
Like, I think, like, it will change your perspective on it if you're like, yeah, like, was it worth it to spend a whole movie bringing John Cena into the franchise?
I mean, he doesn't so far have that big of a screen presence to make it feel like it's worth it.
Yeah, and that's where I think you're going to have to question that. And I don't think we're going to get the answer. I think we're going to get the, like now, I mean. Yeah. I think we're going to know at the end of it, was it worth it when you have basically a slowly assembled Expendables 6 or whatever you want to call it. Like, because they're just grabbing all of the action stars of today and being like, this is who we want in the franchise when it's getting its big climax. Like, that's going to have everyone. You just feel like he's going to, The Rock and Vin Diesel are going to suddenly make up. He's going to agree to come back, join the movies again, and you're going to be like, oh, okay, cool, we're getting the gang back together. It's going to be a big publicly, like, talked about thing. And you're going to be excited about it because all of the action heroes that you like today are going to be in it. Well, like, whoever they can get. I don't know if Kelsey Grammer will be available, but we'll see. Because he was in the Expendables 3.
I did not see those movies. Either way, we've been talking and driving for about a half hour. We are now off the highway. I think it might be time for us to wrap up.
I think it might be. I just like talking about this franchise.
What have we learned today from F9?
I think you know what I'm going to say. It's, as long as we have physics, we'll be fine.
Just think of the numbers. Focus on the numbers.
The physics, the numbers.
The physics, the numbers. The physics, the numbers.
As long as we follow the laws of physics, we'll be fine.
That was the line.
Yes.
That was the line they said right before they literally shot themselves into space.
Yeah. And you just, it feels like it was a director's note, was just like, the director said this, and he was like, no, as long as we have the laws of physics on our side, we'll be fine. Yeah.
So yeah, that was F9. I have been Jared Aronoff. If you would like to find me on Twitter, not that I tweet very much, you can do so at Jared Aronoff.
I have been Eric Tish, and if you want to find me, right now I'm driving around Ontario, so, come say hi.
Our theme song, our wonderful theme song, was composed by the one and only Tarpon Alexandra. You can find her on Twitter. She's a little bit more active than I am. At Tark Alexandra. That's Tarq Alexandra.
I think that's it.
Yeah. I've
had a good time today.
I hope that you all drive safe.
Yeah. Don't go anywhere near 200 mph. We learned that last time. Bad.
Don't drive across rickety bridges.
Don't shoot yourself into space in a car. Do not try this at home. There should have been one of those little things of like just the whole movie should have had one of those like stunt drivers on a professional course. Do not attempt at home. Like,
I think that's implied.
Yeah.
When you watch it, but who knows? I'm gonna go drive my parents' car into space after this, despite not knowing how to drive.
There was that one character who didn't know how to drive.
I wasn't gonna say that because it was gonna bring us onto a whole tangent, but my favorite character was the one who didn't know how to drive and got stuck behind the wheel of a big truck full of magnets.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that this is an hour-long episode about F9.
Worth it.
I certainly hope it was worth it for you. Hope you vote!
Hope you vote.
If the concept were to exist that I'm to explain, which it doesn't, in hypothetical terms, every form of art has a bucket, a container to categorize the format and style, the greats and the rotten. The podcast that you've just consumed did the work for you by scraping the bottom.
Hi there, Jared from the future here. There wasn't really anywhere to slot this into the episode itself because we kind of recorded it in a car and I can't really recreate that audio space. But I wanted to tell you about our Patreon that we just set up. You can go find it now at patreon.com/flumdumpster, and you can sign up if you would like to support our show more than just, listening to us and liking and subscribing to all of our social medias, which I'm sure you have already done. If you go up there right now, you can find some bonus cats content, and that's exciting. And if you go on in the future, when more people have signed up, then you might find even more exciting content. I think we've got our list of growth goals up there somewhere. Either way, I'm probably talking too long. Eric is better at this. But go, look, enjoy, sign up, see our stuff. And I will see you in our next episode on the Netflix movie, The Wrong Missy. So I hope that you're as excited about listening to us talk about that movie as I was not excited to watch it. Great. See you then. Hope you vote.